WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Mali launches 2026 humanitarian response plan to support millions facing insecurity.
Despite a challenging environment, collective efforts by partners have enabled life-saving assistance for 1.8 million people in Mali.
Nigerian Senate splits over electronic transmission as electoral reform debate reignite. Liberian President Joseph Boakai orders eviction of 72nd Barracks residents and in hopes of settlement.
This is one of the things that we have to do in this country. That's why I said to minister to agencies, when you have an agency, make sure, far from running an office, know your assets.
And ONEP Togo warns of rising security incidents in 2025 report. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Sankulu Real Janko.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this afternoon. Newslink begins in Central Sahel region, precisely in Mali, while the humanitarian crisis continues to affect millions of people, particularly in the area impacted by insecurity. To address the situation, the Malian government and the United Nations systems have launched the 2026 humanitarian response plan. According to authorities, the strategy aims at improving assistance for people facing humanitarian emergencies. Christopher Atichi reports.
According to Malian authorities, the 2026 response plan will support 3.8 million people nationwide. It will focus mainly on vulnerable populations, improve access to basic social services, and scale up emergency aid in areas hardest hit by insecurity and climate-related challenges. This will require the mobilization of significant funding. The budget is estimated at nearly $578 million, or 322 billion CFA funds. Reviewing efforts made in 2025, the United Nations Resilience Coordinator, Hannah Singer Hamdi, welcomed the result achieved despite limited financial resources.
Despite a challenging environment, shrinking humanitarian access and limited funding, collective efforts by partners have enabled life-saving assistance for 1.8 million people in Mali. However, major challenges persist, with more than 415,000 people being displaced.
To reach these objectives, the government is counting on stronger coordination among humanitarian actors. Asabaji Oloture is Minister of Health and Social Development.
The government of Mali remains firmly committed to supporting the most vulnerable. Greater emphasis will be placed on sustainable solutions requiring closer collaboration among community actors, humanitarian agencies, and development partners, as well as stronger operational coordination.
With this plan, Mali and its partners hope to strengthen the effectiveness of humanitarian response and meet the urgent need of millions of people from Bamako.
Bamako correspondent Alu Cham's report voiced by Christopher Aticho. Meanwhile, Malian journalist Yusuf Sissoko is currently in custody after an article he published about Niger in early February. The editor of the weekly newspaper The Alternating Period appeared before the prosecutor at the National Cybercrime Unit in Bamako on Thursday, February 5, 2026. His trial is scheduled for March 9, 2026, before the National Cybercrime Unit. Augustine Colley tells us more.
The article in question concerns the reaction of the Nigerian President Abdurrahman Chiani following the attack on Niamey's airport on the 28th and 29th of January, claimed by the Islamic State group. Charges against journalist Yusuf Sissoko include disseminating false information, damaging the reputation of the state, and insulting a foreign head of state. The offense of insulting a foreign head of state is provided for in the Malian Penal Code and has already been applied in recent cases. In November 2024, Issa Kawin Jim, a former member of the National Transitional Council and former right-hand man of Imam Mamun Deko, was arrested after remarks he made during a program broadcast on a private television channel. He was tried and convicted in December 2024 for insulting a foreign head of state before being released after serving the custodial portion of his sentence. In May 2025, journalist Seydou Omar Touare was also arrested in Bamako following public statements targeting a foreign head of state. He was prosecuted on the same legal grounds and sentenced to imprisonment before being released in November after serving part of his sentence. In the case of Yusuf Sissoko, the Association of Private Press Publishers expressed its solidarity with the editor of La Tenance and said it is following the progress of the legal proceedings. The professional organization reiterates its commitment to freedom of expression and of the press, referring to provisions of the Malian Constitution of July 22, 2023.
Augustine Coley filed that report. Still on security issues, the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP Togo, has presented its 2025 security report. The study, conducted under the Early Warning and Conflict Prevention Program, highlights a worrying rise in security incidents across the country. The report was unveiled on Wednesday in Lomé during a press conference. Imo Edit gives the details in this report.
The 2025 Security Report by WANEP Togo analyzes three main areas: democracy and governance, gender-based violence, and environmental and health risk. In total, 629 incidents were recorded nationwide. These resulted in 157 deaths and more than 390 injuries, an overall increase of 40% compared to 2024. In detail, the democracy and governance category accounts for the majority of incidents, with 424 cases recorded. This is followed by gender-based violence, with 108 cases, while environmental and health risk registered 52 incidents. Seyram Adiakpo is a coordinator of WANEP Togo.
Often carried out for cultural, social and traditional reasons, these practices have long-lasting consequences for health. When performed by someone who is not properly trained or equipped, severe bleeding can occur and may lead to the girl's death. There are also infections, difficulties during sexual relations, complications in pregnancy, and especially during childbirth, where bleeding can become fatal.
The document also enabled the production of a map of high-risk zones, intended to alert the public and authorities about preventive measures to adopt.
Overall, there's been a noticeable decline. However, in some communities in the north of the country, the practice persists, even if carried out more discreetly. While the government has enacted laws, resistance to change remains within certain communities.
Through this report, WANEP Togo is calling on authorities, civil society actors and local communities to strengthen conflict prevention mechanisms in order to preserve peace and social cohesion in Togo.
Lomé correspondent Sylvie Wadrago's report, voiced by Imo Edet.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Concerning electoral issues, Nigeria's electoral reform conversation is back in focus following renewed debate in the Senate over electronic transmission of election results. It is a key demand by many civil society groups seeking greater transparency in elections. Efforts to amend Nigeria's Electoral Act have been ongoing for several years, particularly after the 2023 general elections, with lawmakers, civil society groups and election observers pushing for clearer legal backing for technology-driven processes such as electronic accreditation and transmission of results. WDR's Abuja correspondent Yeche Nusasesu reports.
The amendment process typically involves debates in both chambers of the National Assembly, clause-by-clause review, and eventual harmonization between the Senate and the House of Representatives before a final version is passed. But even as that process continues, confusion has emerged over what lawmakers actually approved regarding electronic transmission, after Senate Minority Leader Eyinaya Abaribe insisted the Senate endorsed real-time electronic transmission as part of the reforms. Civil society groups say mixed messaging from lawmakers risks undermining public confidence. Executive Director of Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, has criticized the Senate's position.
It's really unfortunate that at a time like this, when the Senate should have risen to the occasion to protect and ensure that there are guardrails that prevent human interference with our results management process from manipulation, they have chosen to drop the ball.
Responding to the criticism, Senator Abaribe has clarified that the Senate supports electronic transmission.
Transmit, not transfer. What is in 2022 is transfer. And we don't want a law that is vague. We don't want a law that will be misinterpreted by anybody. We want a law that is clear, concise, and that is unambiguous.
He says the full picture will become clearer once harmonization with the House of Representatives is completed. Observers say, beyond the technical debate, the controversy highlights a deeper issue on the need for clarity, consistency and public trust as Nigeria continues efforts to strengthen its electoral framework. For WADR, Yechin Sasitu in Abuja.
To some humanitarian issues, Liberian President Joseph Boakai has dashed the hopes of residents at the 72nd Barracks, ordering the Armed Forces of Liberia AFL to proceed with their eviction. The decision comes despite numerous appeals from long-term occupants who have been pleading for more time to finding alternative housing. The 72nd Barracks, located on the outskirts of Monrovia, has been home to hundreds of families, many of whom are veterans or descendants of former military personnel. For years, the community residents have faced uncertainty over their right to remain on the land which the AFL claims is needed for military expansion. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
The over 12 acres, according to the AFL, is crucial for development of modern military facilities. Since the eviction notice from the Armed Forces of Liberia, many families have been homeless and have since called for an extension. One of such is the owner of a large entertainment center who said she invested over $500,000.
I see for some a compensation. If they can even give me 1 year, a woman, they can help me with any amount. I just paying them.
But responding to the matter Thursday, Liberian President Joseph Boakai said the land belongs to the Armed Forces of Liberia and they should reclaim it.
You know, this is one of the things that we have to do in this country. That's why I said to minister to agencies, when you have an agency, make sure far from running an office, know your assets. So the army people know the demarcation, they know what land belongs to them. If they don't, there's a way to determine that, but we make sure that the army is not violating anybody's right. The army is entitled to decent livelihood that they are placed. God is not making new land. That place was for the army, and the army is going there to take it back.
The president's statement has been met with anger by the affected residents. The eviction started this week in some part, leaving little time for a peaceful resolution. For Newslink, WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Now to bilateral relations, Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama has reaffirmed his country's commitment to deepening trade, investment and financial cooperation with Zambia, praising the country's recent economic reforms and democratic credentials. The Ghanaian leader is in Zambia for a 3-day state visit at the invitation of his Zambian counterpart, President Hakainde Hichilema. Speaking before lawmakers in Lusaka, President Mahama cited the stabilization of the Zambian kwacha and ongoing reforms as positive signals to investors, while expressing confidence in the country's preparations for elections in 2026.
The improved performance of the Zambian currency, the kwacha, and the ongoing reform agenda sends positive signals to investors and regional partners. And so Ghana looks forward to deepening trade, investment, and financial cooperation with Zambia to reinforce resilience and shared prosperity. Ghana follows Zambia's democratic journey with keen interest and confidence. And as Zambia prepares for general elections in August this year, we wish to express our trust in the strength of your democratic institutions and the commitment of the Zambian people for free and fair elections. It is in this spirit that Ghana and Zambia have revitalized our Permanent Joint Commission for Cooperation, providing a structured, results-oriented framework for collaboration across all priority sectors, including trade, investment, energy, tourism, mining, agriculture, education, science and technology, youth development, and defense cooperation. Just this afternoon, we have signed 10 memorandums of understanding to act as the framework for our joint cooperation.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Meanwhile, Ghana's National Labour Commission has directed senior staff unions in public universities to immediately suspend their indefinite strike over conditions of service and pay-related concerns. The Commission warns that negotiations cannot continue while the action persists. The strike has disrupted administrative work and academic processes on several campuses, affecting registration, procurement services, and examination schedules. WADR's Nadi Ditete has more in the following report.
The National Labour Commission issued the directive after summoning the unions and their employers to a hearing on February 4, 2025. Those listed in the strike include the Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana, the Teachers and Educational Workers Union of the TUC, the Federation of Universities Senior Staff Association of Ghana, and the Technical Universities Administrators Association of Ghana. At the sitting, only the Technical Universities Administrators Association of Ghana, TUAG, appeared while the other unions were absent. Representatives of the employers, including the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, were present. Management told the Commission that the Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana began an indefinite strike on February 3, with the other unions also participating, though TUAC said it was not part of the action. After deliberations, the Commission ordered all striking staff to return to work immediately, insisting that the substantive issues and the dispute will only be addressed once the strike is suspended. It also asked the Technical Universities Administrators Association of Ghana, TUAG, to formally state in writing its position if it is not participating in industrial action. The unions have been urged to comply with the directive to allow dialogue to resume and restore normal operations across university campuses. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink in West Africa, the Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, online at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Mali launches 2026 humanitarian response plan to support millions of persons in security. Nigerian Senate splits over electronic transmission as electoral reform debate reignites. Liberian President Joseph Boakai orders eviction of 72nd Barracks residents and in hopes of a settlement. And ONEP Togo warns of rising security incidents in 2025 report. Still ahead, we have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Focusing on accountability, let's turn to Burkina Faso, where 7 public servants have been dismissed or referred to disciplinary councils over alleged acts of corruption. They include a land officer, a doctor, and both national and municipal police officers. The decision follows the release of a video by Korag showing the officials reportedly caught in the act. Abdullah Hassan completes the story.
4 days after the Korag video surfaced, the government announced sanctions. According to the Minister of Public Servants, Matthias Traore, authorities tasked with implementing public policy said the officials involved had either been dismissed from the civil service or referred to disciplinary councils.
Au titre du ministère de la Sécurité,
under the Ministry of Security, Mr. Sawadogo Robert, registration number 240873, a police warrant officer has been dismissed for conduct deemed damaging to the ethics and honor of the service. Mr. Sankane Seni, registration number 240559, also a police warrant officer, has been referred to a disciplinary council. Under the Ministry of Health, Mr. Bowa Jacks, registration number 278480M, a specialist doctor in stomatology and maxillofacial surgery, has been referred to a disciplinary council.
Traduit en français de discipline.
All 7 individuals featured in the video are affected by these measures. However, the specialist doctor in stomatology has denied the allegations.
In a letter sent to his superior and later published on Facebook, he says, supported by purchase receipts, that he was assisting the patient by procuring medical equipment.
Ouagadougou correspondent Martin Keba's report, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. Taking you to the Gambia now, as the country's navy receives a major boost to its maritime operations with the handover of 2 speed patrol boats and advanced forensic equipment. The donation comes at a time when concerns over smuggling, illegal fishing and other maritime crimes are on the rise. According to the authorities, these new assets will improve coastal surveillance, enhance rapid response and strengthen the Gambia's role in regional efforts to secure West African waters. WDR's Banjul correspondent Sang Donald Mendy completes the story.
The donation, worth about 500,000 euros, equivalent to approximately 589,000 US dollars, comes through the European Union support to West Africa Integrated Maritime Security Project. The 2 patrol boats, Sark and Delphin, are built for rapid interception, search and rescue, and enforcement of maritime laws across Gambian waters and the country's exclusive economic zone. Speaking at the handover, Deputy Chief of Defense Staff Major General Usman Gomez highlighted the country's commitment to regional cooperation and safe seas.
As a coastal nation whose economy, food security and livelihood are closely tied to the sea, maritime security and safety remain strategic national priorities.
For her part, ECOWAS representative Metaya Lily French stressed the strategic importance of the new vessels.
The rigid-hull inflatable boats offer a critical operational advantage for modern maritime security operations. Their speed, endurance, and maneuverability make them ideal for patrols, interception, and search and rescue missions. They are particularly effective in coastal, riverine, and near-shore environments where larger vessels face operational limitations. I think we have been taken through what they're capable of doing, so we all understand. These capabilities are essential in curbing drug trafficking networks that exploit maritime routes to finance organized crime and instability.
Meanwhile, 16 naval personnel have already completed an intensive 2-week training on safe handling and maintenance, ensuring the boat's long-term operational use. The handover underscores collective responsibility in tackling maritime threats and strengthening West African resilience. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment focuses on Nigeria, where conversations about electoral reform are back in focus following renewed debate in the Senate over electronic transmission of election results. It is a key demand by many civil society groups seeking greater transparency in elections. Efforts to amend Nigeria's Electoral Act have been ongoing for several years, particularly after the 2023 general elections, with lawmakers, civil society groups, and election observers pushing for clear legal backing for technology-driven processes such as electronic accreditation and transmission of results. Our guest is Clifford Ededi, a civil society actor who says insights about the matter.
It's a pity that the cry of Nigerians, not just civil society, that is at stake. We are all stakeholders to the issue on ground. But very sadly, yesterday, the Senate opted for what would rather benefit them, what would rather profit them, what would rather keep them in power, rather than yearning to the yearnings of the ordinary citizens. The act in question, if you remember vividly, the election that brought in the incumbent president, which is Tinubu, was flawed with a lot of malpractices, and it was challenged in court. The Supreme Court and Mr. Obi, one of the running presidential candidates, took the matter before the court and also took the INEC, the body responsible for election. And this was the issue. Let me just put in category A and B. One of the electoral house says it's optional. One of the house says optional to either transmit votes from the polling unit live and give access to anybody to challenge or contest any result. That is the first option. The second option makes it compulsory that at every voting unit, election will be transmitted. Parties, anybody can have access to it. And what we were clamoring for, all Nigeria, not just civil society, was that we opt for the a compulsory transmission of the election.
Why is electronic transmission of election results so important to civil society groups in Nigeria's electoral reform process?
As stakeholders, either as a civil society organization or even as Nigerians, it is very, very important because it's transparent, it's call for accountability and transparency. We want to be sure that every vote counts, every Nigerian vote counts. And that's why we opted for compulsory transmission of electoral results. And parties in contest should have access to results and materials to download it and see it. And if you must have a transparent and democratic system of government, we're opting that BVAS should be compulsory transmitted from electoral booths.
Now, what risks does the ongoing confusion over the Electoral Act amendments pose to public trust in the country's electoral system?
Yes, the only thing we have vital, the only thing that makes us stakeholder in governance are just be taken away from us. So there's no trust. The only thing that binds us with government, the only thing that gives us the confidence are just be taken away from us. So as it is now, we don't have a say. It doesn't matter whether we vote, we don't vote. I call it option A. What they opted for is that it's subject to malpractices and cannot be contested. So whatever the INEC says, whoever they say is the winner, whatever they declare, is fine. As it is immaterial. It makes us, the voters, civil society organization, powerless. So at this point, we don't have any trust and we don't believe in the forthcoming election that is going to represent our true interest because they've already taken it away.
As the harmonization process between the Senate and the House of Representatives continues, what would civil society actors like to see done differently to ensure transparency and accountability?
What we want is that BVAS should be transmitted. Let my vote count. The only way my vote should count, if I vote, let the transmission be done instantly. Let every party have access to the results. That's all. That's all we just need, transparency.
Well, Clifford Eddie is a civil society actor in Nigeria. In sports, with just 2 rounds of group matches left in the CAF Champions League, the race for the quarterfinals is reaching the decisive stage. Only 2 top teams in each group will advance, making this weekend's fixtures very crucial. After 4 matches, the qualification is beginning to take shape across all 4 groups. In Group C, leaders Al Hilal face MC Alger on Friday, knowing a positive result could secure their place in the last 8. Defending champions the Pyramids FC are in action in Group A on Saturday, looking to move closer to the quarterfinals, while Group B sees record winners Al Ahly aiming to strengthen their lead as AS FAR and Young Africans chase qualification. While in Group D, the battle remains wide open, with Stade Malien hoping to edge closer to the first quarterfinal appearance since 2015 as they face Esperance of Tunisia. Elsewhere, South African side Chippa United have confirmed the departure of Nigerian goalkeeper Stanley Wabali after granting his request to leave the club. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Maudo Ju for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. Expect Info chez vous, a comprehensive news bulletin in French at 1 p.m. with my colleague Alpha Abubakar. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kaigama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia, Radio Gaf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.